Welcome to The Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee. And today I have the privilege of being in conversation with a voice actor with a passion for content creation. His voice work has appeared on Shadow and Act, The Shade Room, and Baller Alert. His video content has been praised by the likes of Tony Baker, Alan Hughes, and Rosario Dawson. Please welcome Travis Case. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, sir. It's a privilege to be here. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I appreciate you making the time. What have you? It's a thing. Like I just did a screening the other night, and not too many people showed up, and I was like, supporting the arts, and then it's like tumbleweed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So before we get too deep into it, let's talk about some of the early days. Like, where'd you grow up? How'd you get started in voice acting? Ultimately, why'd you choose voice acting?
Okay. So grew up in Northeast Baltimore, high school, St. Francis Academy, and Morgan State. Like those two places among the poetry scene in Baltimore and on around Morgan State, DMV just at large, really helped me define my voice as far as it sits in pop culture. And in like 2014, I graduated with English and a concentration in journalism. So in 2012 and around 2014, I was like, hey, I really want to talk about Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. And I did like a book review on that. And I tweeted him, and he tweeted back, and he retweeted my book review of The Alchemist, and then threw it on his personal YouTube page. And it was just super dope. Like the video went from like 4 views to 40 to 4,000. And then it was just like, damn, like this is dope. Like I could really do this. And from there, from doing like book reviews and movie reviews, people were like, yo, I would pay you to read to me. I would pay you to read to me. And so from there, I eventually, I want to say in 2018, took a voiceover/voice acting class. And it's been great, man. I mean, I haven't gotten a ton of work, but like I do enjoy narration. Like my goal is to have my voice on a car commercial. You know what I mean? To have my voice on movie trailers. You know what I mean? And I mean, literally telling stories. Yep. So that's like my thing.
Yeah, I dig it. I think like I became aware of you a little over a year, probably 15 months ago, something along those lines, when I went to the screening of Candyman, and I saw it was a video that you did that was part of like the trailer, and I just remember I was like, all right, who's this dude? And I think I was like already following you, but I was like, okay, ... That's who this dude is, and I thought it was really entertaining, informative, and enthralling, and I thought it was a good accompaniment for the movie and reflective of I think it being accompanying the screening, it made it feel like it was a special thing. It was like content related to the actual reason we were there, which I think that's the way you do a screening versus, hey, we got this movie a little early, come and hang out and spend way too much money on it. It's like, no, here's something that is from a local creator and it's inside this sort of like creators community. That was in like Station North, and it was a good setup, I thought. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the voice acting class or what have you. Tell me about that. Like, what was the sort of techniques, the training that you got out of that? Because I hear different things. Like, I remember going to this conference at this talk rather. It was at BlurredCon a couple years ago, and Bo Billingsley, legendary voice actor, was there, and it's one dude that gets up there. He's kind of brolic, and he's doing the big guy voice, and I was like, your voice is kind of mid, sir. And Bo kind of caught him on that. He was just like, where's your range, though? He's like, you got a great deep voice, but do you have a range? And he's doing these sort of exercises, the scales on stage. It was really interesting. So talk to me about some of the training, some of the techniques that you learned to, make use of your instrument, if you will.
I think the biggest thing that I took away from that being my first class were like the main critical questions, like finding the character and everything, because you don't think about it like, say, for example, in a car commercial, right? People just think you're just saying these words, the all new Honda Accord. Like you think you're just saying that like in a cool way, but like there's a character within that script. And so the main things are, what do I want? Why do I want it? What am I willing to do to get it? When is this happening? And where? Where literally means like, where is this person coming from? It's just like more context. Yeah, like that is the main thing. I think following those questions and like building, some people don't build character bios, but like if you were to like really flesh out this person and this voice, I think that helps, and it gives more color and more history and levity to when you're speaking.
Yeah, it adds depth to it.
Yes,
this is me trolling years ago. I remember going to. It's not well. I was in a character. I'll put it that way. Years ago, do you remember that scam that Trump had? I think Trump University or what have you.
Yeah.
So I ended up falling for that, but I was in like a job that was kind of like, yeah, you should do this. And I was like, sure, you guys going to pay for it? And he's like, yeah, sure. I went there in character as a British dude, and I tried to maintain this voice the entire time. I had on tartan pants, a sweater vest, and the girl I was dating at the time, she's like, can you take that voice off? I was like, no, I'm stuck in it. I can't get out of it. And I find like even now, because people doing a podcast audio media, it's like, oh man, your voice is great. I was like, my voice varies during the course of. I'll listen to her the arc, and I was like, that was a weird day I had there. It was a little transatlantic day. So, tell me about your first acting gig. What was that experience like? Tell me about the nerves. Tell me about or lack of nerves. Tell me about like what that was. Set the stage for us.
Ironically, my first gig, well, it's 2020 is kind of meshing all together. Well, I was basically reading love letters. One gig, I was basically reading love letters for this documentary, and it escapes me, but it's a super dope documentary talking about Black love through the centuries. Mm-hmm. And I was reading selections from like several different writers, and the documentary was in like crunch time. It was like the fourth quarter, and a lot of times for voiceover and voice actor, we are the last people to get hit on the rung. You know what I mean? The visuals and the SFX, all of that is optimal. The like the script and everything, and then they come to the artist last. So it was like the last couple of days, and I had my makeshift booth, back home, and I just had to get it done, and it was very nerve-wracking because I had to do a couple of do-overs because it was very much not just different voices, if you will, but just like different perspectives, loving different people, you know what I mean, and how these writers communicated that. Yeah. But another one, ironically, was on Clubhouse. I played John from Waiting to Exhale in a redo of Waiting to Exhale audio version. And this is blasphemous. Yeah. But I've never fully seen Waiting to Exhale. And so by the time I got the role of John, I didn't watch it. I watched one of the main scenes, and that was really it.
No, that's interesting. Like, I haven't done much like in that sort of space. Like, I've had a few acting things here and there, and it is interesting to try to get a feel and what the motivation is. And sometimes like some of these calls that come out, it's just I need someone to do a thing, say a line, and I'm like, yo, I don't have any background in this, like. And actually going to a project for background work, and it's just like, yo, what are you wearing? What are you dressed as? Like really somebody dissecting you? And I was like, this is a very weird environment. So having that sort of physical component to it, but when it gets to the voice thing, it's interesting to like, where's the motivations come from? How do you get into what that person might be thinking? Especially if it's, I think of, listen to a lot of audiobooks. I think of
Mm-hmm.
that. That's immediately
Yeah.
what I think of when it has that sort of narration component. I was like, this is a person. Like, how are you doing this? How are you bringing this to life? And I find that, and I go to D. Watkins when I listen to Black Boy Smile, and
Mm-hmm.
having him do it, it added something different to it. And it's just someone ultimately reading it, but adding some like richness to it, some to it. It's like, oh, this feels much different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think the main thing, one of the main differences between, I haven't had a lot of like, what do you call it? Like on camera acting gigs, but like a lot of people, again, just think you're just talking cool when you're voice acting. A lot of times you have to move your body to communicate a certain thing. You know what I mean? As you know, like you have to move your body, and to like, sometimes if I'm doing something and it sounds like a whisper, I'll actually like crouch and like get into, imagine me talking into somebody's ear to kind of like make that feel real. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like, if a character is hiding, there's nothing wrong with literally like in your booth in that confined space hiding
yeah, yeah.
and saying what you need to say. You know what I mean? It's all about like tricking your mind to make it feel real, and making that real for the listener.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people just think you're just standing up and you're just, doing whatever, but it's not
See,
just.
this is why me as a voice actor would be wild, because I'm 6'4", and this is like, oh, I'm crouching. It's like, oh, you're breaking stuff, sir, less. It's like, oh, and then the studio was attacked by Godzilla. But there were two things that come to mind when you mention that. One is some of the, I guess, the voice work, because a lot of times when you're looking at like a movie that's like visual component or what have you, you think that, oh, all the sound is already there. A lot of that stuff is done in post. And
Yeah.
I think of Hugh Jackman running, like that scene in Logan where he's running through the woods and he's into it. Like you think he's on a track. And I'm like, oh yeah, you got to really capture this like component. So as we move into, and this is where I feel a lot of gigs are going to start popping up for you, moving into this sort of space of audio dramas, which they were around in the 50s and before, right? But we're coming
Yeah.
back to them. I feel that you have to, like, what are you bringing in there more than just, yeah, I did this and this is the sound and all of that. And the other thing I think of when you describe, like, you might, crouch down and so on, I think of Sorry to Bother You. I think of that almost immediately.
Yeah.
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 You're
Yeah. Yeah.
really getting into it. And some of the advice, as a proud Morgan State alum, that whole thing, and they say, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And when you're doing an interview, and it can be like, as we're doing like a Zoom right now, be like, oh, I gotta put this tie on. I feel like it's a different there's a different energy there. And you present and you project in a different way. And I think that's all tied to, this, like I'm doing right now, gesticulating. All of that is tied to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and again, like I've been told so many things. Like I can't wait to actually do like an in physical old school like 80s, 90s audition, like in front of people. But like I've been told from, like, for example, watching Samuel L. Jackson's masterclass, he's like, yo, if you're going on an audition, don't dress in costume. Like they'll give you a costume if you get the job. But then I've heard people say, yo, dress in costume so you can actually feel like that person. Like for example, I'm Sorry to Bother You. That was a very much stiff environment. I imagine, like if I'm doing the voiceover version for it, I'm gonna put on an actual shirt and tie, and I'm gonna button it all the way up, like so I can barely move my neck. Like that was kind of like that call center environment. Like it was very like stuffy. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So yeah, I've heard so many things, man. I feel like there's no wrong way to skin a cat.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite stories is Mahershala Ali, how he got the True Detective gig or role when that character was actually written as an older white man.
Mm-hmm.
But like Mahershala Ali went in there and did his thing, and it was like, oh no, like you're the character. We are rewriting this character.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's no wrong way.
I remember the thing with Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones. It's like, yeah, you're supposed to be playing someone that's sick and you're tired, and he happened to have like a stomach bug. So it's like, oh, this is just coming through. This is a masterclass of performance. No, I'm actually ill.
I never heard that story. That's hilarious.
It's almost like you wanted to be a bit. It's like, yeah, man, I was just really method, and I got like on heroin for a little bit for this role. It's like, are you sure? You sure about that, bro? So what when you have when you have work that comes in, how does, when you're working on a project, you have work come in, how does that look from like a typical day? Like, how does that day start? Because I want to get a sense of, you know, doing voiceover work, doing voice acting work. What does that look like in a given day? Like, you got a project, you know, you're working on something. Is it like, you know, we need you to be on this system, we need you to have like your home booth set up? What does that look like?
So my brother Theo, shout out to Theo, helped me build my booth. And it was basically like piping that we got and cut from Home Depot, sound dampening blankets, packing blankets, and a lot of the times, I mean, it's I guess it would be, I don't know how entertaining it is to watch somebody actually do voiceover, but like for commercials and stuff, it was literally just me going into the booth and recording it and then sending it off and like, do y'all like this or not? You know what I mean? Do you like it? I mean, and then there are the live recording sessions where you'll have the producer or the director or the creative director in your ear, and they'll be over Zoom or Discord, and they will be able to hear your takes. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, like, okay, like you gave the happy take, give me the sad take, or give me the more dramatic take. You know what I mean? Or put a more emphasis on this word, you know. It's very much being able to, excuse me, it's very much being able to take coaching. You know what I mean? Like, I would say leave your ego at the door, because people, those engineers, directors, they're very cut and dry a lot of times. They're like, yeah, can you give me this? Can you give me that? Can you give me this?
And they know what they need too. I mean,
yeah.
And it's, I would imagine it's execution. It's, you know, it's like, I need this. And I guess when it comes to like direction and things of that sort and that sort of coaching, I think there's two sides to it. You have the why, you have people that are focused on the why and people that are focused on the how. And I think, you know, the director, the engineer, whoever, they're why people.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, this is what I need. You're in that spot, or an actor's in that spot of the how. Like, I need this tone for this particular scene or this part of the story to feel sad, to feel maudlin. And they know why they want that. So as far as the actors, as far as even the people doing the score in the background, all of that has to be in unison. And it's like, you can't be like, yeah, guys, let's do it. And you hear like the sad piano in the background. It's like, who did this? Who put this together? How did this get greenlit?
Exactly. but then there's Source Connect, which is also live, which I don't have Source Connect yet, and I need to get that, because that is a key part for the remote setup. So I need to get that as well.
So what is that though? Because I'm not familiar. I'm looking it up now.
yeah, I believe it's like a software that that again allows them to. I don't know if they're recording. I don't know exactly how they do it, but that's a big thing. I don't know if they're recording you live, or is it just like another software where they can hear you and like clear it and give you that live feedback.
That's good.
It could be all of that, to be honest.
That's good, because I mean, as we know with Zoom over the last few, it's like, yeah. So Travis, I need you to do another take. With if you could put a little bit. And it's like, wow. I'm sure someone's listening to this is like, come on, Rob, can you not troll? I feel like you're just losing it. So what would you say is what sticks out in terms of like a lot of takes for you? Because I'll tell you this, you know, before we got started, when I did my intro, I always fumble the intro when I have the guests on. So I've been recording it beforehand because I know I can do my 8 takes or what have you to kind of get it right. and no one on the back end knows, unless I say it like I just did. So when you got a like a project or what have you, what is like a lot of takes or something that sticks out for you in terms of the number of takes or difficulty or ease maybe in doing some dialogue, some voiceover work, some voice acting?
What sticks out for me, like if possible, I try to do it either um in the morning or really late at night, because like I find that my mind is out of the room, or I care less. I feel like when I'm in the stage of caring less, my execution is better, because it's just more natural. Like literally takes for me, after take 3 is my sweet spot, because like that first take is just like uber stiff, and I'm just like saying where my voice is. That second take, I'm like, all right, maybe. And then like by 3 on, I'm like, okay, like we starting to get there. Like we starting to build it. I actually kind of like this.
Mm.
But yeah, like a lot of the stuff that I go for, like you said, the brother earlier when we were talking, my wheelhouse is my lower registry. Like I can do other things, and I am working on other things, but like but that's also literally my favorite thing to do. You know what I mean? Like I love the Don LaFontaine old school movie trailer. You know what I mean? Like summer blockbuster thing. That's why I love this shit. You know what I mean? That is my thing. Like being in the movies and hearing those trailers, that is like my whole world. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I hope that answers your question.
No. I think you did. And one of the things that I would like to see more of is people like yourself, like doing it. Like I think people go for these at times. This is, and I could be completely wrong here, but go for these sort of like heavy, large swings, going for the home run every time. I need to run a show. It's like, no, you may want to look at doing voice acting. Like, I think about representation. I did this panel recently. I moderated a panel, and it was about diversity in media. And, and I go back to that Bo Billingsley example I mentioned. Bo Billingsley is like 70 something, almost 80. So if we're doing more content, we have black anime now, for sake of argument. We have, cartoons. We have like a need for that sort of diversity. It can't all be like, the same person. It has to be like different people. So it's like, what advice, if you will, would you give for people who want to like take an interest in like voice acting, voiceover work, content creation, things of the sort? Because I think more people need to look at that as a viable option versus I need to be in front of the camera. Anything else is uncivilized. That's a deodorant commercial. It's fine, but you get my point.
Yeah, I would say take a class to see, track down and research great teachers, good to great teachers, and see if this is something that you really want to do, because it's not. People always, again, think about the final product. It's not as glamorous. Like the making of it is not as glamorous as people would imagine it to be. So I would say get into classes, find your technique, find your wheelhouse. I forgot exactly what it's called, but the roles that you would be most fitted for, even on camera and behind the mic. Are you the college student? Are you the scientist? Are you the detective? Are you the announcer? There's just so many places that you can go with voiceover, even when you call the bank. That voices that you hear that walks you through the entire thing, that's voiceover.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's so many routes that you can go where your voice will be welcomed and appreciated, so.
What I would really like to see is sort of that regional dialect, regional accent, do all of that sort of work. It's like, this is the lottery brought to you by like some dude from West Baltimore. It's like, yo, he said dummy 10 times. Oh shit. That's what I actually want. This is why I'm asking for diversity. I want to go to a place. I want to go to New Orleans and someone says, get that smoked sausage, baby. I want someone to do that whole thing. I want all of the things there. That's diversity and representation for me.
Yeah, I think, I think it comes to that, because the more streaming networks that we have, like
Hmm.
all of these podcasts, like you said,
Yeah.
audio dramas, like people are looking for that authenticity. It doesn't make sense, like even from a news standpoint. I mean, granted, anywhere you go, like you said, like for example, in New Orleans, you're going to hear that person, even if they're from New Orleans, speak as if they're from New York or Boston or Vermont. You know what I mean? But it does make so much sense if I'm in New Orleans to have somebody speak to me in my dialect, my voice. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, because I remember watching this documentary on like linguistics years ago and like accents and things like that. And I was looking for the Baltimore one because I'm from Baltimore and I'm told that I don't have one. And I was like, okay. I was like, I say two. I was like, look, man, I like salt, pepper, ketchup. What are you saying? And and I get defensive. And but I read that and they mentioned in the doc that the general quote unquote accent, like the uniform accent, is like a specific part of Connecticut. That's like the uniform tone, accent, or what have you, that people are looking for. So even when someone is not that they're playing an American or they're playing someone with that sort of, this is what the training is on. This is the voice coach is doing. And I
Yeah.
was like, interesting. And I'll tell you this before I move into, because I got some rapid fire questions for you. I got to hit you with.
Okay.
Whenever I see certain Britishes, like to say it like that, when I see them doing a Southern accent, it is nails on a chalkboard.
Mm.
Like not all of them, but a few of them. I'm like, yo, can your voice coach kind of help you out with this? Like, and I think being more aware of it, and you just hear it, and it's like, this doesn't ring true. This is not your thing. Um, and sometimes it works. Like I think of Knives Out, right? Like, who's the dude that Daniel
Chris
Craig?
did that. Yeah.
He's playing Foghorn Leghorn. It's fine. It works. But in Prometheus and Idris Elba is playing like some dude from the South. It didn't at all. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you're a good actor. Like, what do we got? What is here? And I think that again speaks to, they could have hired someone because it's not a role that requires an Idris Elba for sake of argument. You could have hired someone that is reflective of that area, but who's auditioning for it. And I think as content, as we've touched on before, is leaning more into, can you do this remotely?
Mm-hmm.
Be aware of the software, as you said, talk to good to great coaches and take those sort of classes. They're not super expensive either, I don't think.
Yeah. I mean, it really depends on how accomplished the coach is. Usually, in their current clientele, that usually determines, of course, like what they're charging. But you can find like great coaches who are just cheap because they want to help people out. You know what I mean? And like they love what they do. So like it's trying to find that medium ground. I actually was introduced to a slew of coaches out here who are pretty damn expensive. I mean, but they are that accomplished though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they catapulted people. So yeah,
If
I get my money right.
so this is one question I got for you, and this will be the last real question.
Okay.
3 to 5 years, what are you doing?
Well, great question. 3 to 5 years. I want to have some documentaries under my belt, and I want to be living off of voiceover, content creation, and on camera work, just like in those three spheres. And yeah, I probably will have one of those large dogs, man, like a Akita dog, one of those behemoth. I just like, man, majestic looking creatures, man. I grew up on He-Man, you know. So I want like one of those. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that a dog or did I just crawl out of Lord of the Rings? Like, I want one of those in my house.
I dig
So
it. It's like I need
yeah.
Battle Cat. I don't care. I don't care if the saddle fits. Toys that made us. Shout out. I mean, I want a Shiba Inu, so we're going to say I'm going to name him Shinsuke. After a wrestler. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to rock some rapid fire questions with you. I got 4 of them, and I think you'll like them. And don't overthink them. Don't overthink them.
Okay.
Let's see. Since you mentioned He-Man, I might as well start off with this one. Let's say there is a gig for a reboot of a classic cartoon.
Okay.
which role do you want to play and what cartoon would it be?
Damn. Great question. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I would like to give Negro Batman a shot. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I would like to give.
Oof. Also, R.I.P. Kevin Conroy.
Yes, R.I.P. to Kevin Conroy.
That would be great to have, because like I've heard a few dudes do some voice. I was like, you're not bad, man. You're like, I know that you do it. You're a professional. You know, I'll talk, look at people. And I was like, yeah, you're somebody else. Favorite snack, because I always like that. I always like to get into like what people eat.
Favorite snack, man. I don't know. I feel like Snickers is default because I feel like Snickers is like the Nia Long of like candy bars.
Very black.
Like it's very yeah, I mean if but you know what? I will say this. If we're not including candy bars, Boom Chicka Pop, the sweet and salty kettle corn.
Okay.
That's my jam.
And I like that. I'm a white cheddar guy, but I like the kettle corn. You know what? The Chicago mix?
I've never had the Chicago mix.
So it's like caramel and it's like cheddar. Half and half. Just that idea. That idea right there.
Yeah. I might have to grab some from Target today. I'm actually going to Target today, so that might be it.
Because I mentioned what I do in the beginning of this, what is a word you hate pronouncing because you inevitably just botch it?
That I hate pronouncing. I have a lot of trouble with decision. I think I have like a low-key lisp. So when I get to the sig, you may be messing me up, man. Like, oh my gosh.
At least you haven't run into any of the Baltimore things. It's like, yeah, say two, bro. Like, I thought this was actually fun. What are we doing here, bro? Yeah, I run into a few, and I saw something. It's a term that I'm blanking on the term, but it's when people transpose the letters for certain words, like instead of comfortable, they call it comfortable or what have you, or instead of ask, they call it ax. And it's a transpose, but it's not like being dyslexic or something along those lines. It's a regional thing apparently, and it's like this is the way it was learned. And I sometimes have trouble if I learn it incorrectly initially. That's just what it is. That's just what it is moving forward. I have a buddy. I just call him D because I learned his name incorrectly and it stuck. And I was like, I'm not gonna figure this out. I was like, I'm terrible. I don't want to have to. Yeah, meet me and D at this place. I hope to never have to do an advertisement, especially for like one of those German beers. Oh my God, it's just going to be me botching it.
Oh no, bro. It's if I try to pronounce like a long German name, it's gonna sound like cuneiform, man, like verbal cuneiform. Like
try to pronounce some of the different drug names that are out there, like Lexapro. Oh, shoof. I don't know, bro. Okay, this is the last one I got for you. Right. What has gotten you further in your career, street smarts or book smarts?
What do we count internet smarts as, book or street?
Depends on how you use it. If you're out here doing a scam bobble on the internet, that's street smarts. If you're like, let me just type this in real quick and do this code, that's probably book smarts.
Okay, all right. I mean, it could be a hybrid. Like I just found out. I mean, granted, the algorithm keeps changing on every platform over and over and over again. It's like it's like a Rubik's Cube that keeps moving. But I found out on the internet is, as a content creator, grabbing something that someone's already familiar with and putting your own spin on it is kind of like the perfect concoction. It's like hearing Lupe Fiasco over the They Reminisce Over You beat. It's like, you have this reference for Troy, but then one of your favorite MCs, one of the best MCs ever, does it. And it's just like, oh my God. You know what I mean?
And also, finally.
yes. And compression, like my favorite thing to do is like to take a long form thing and make it 5 minutes, to take a 10-minute thing, make it 4, to take a 30-minute thing and make it 15. I feel like that is the best way to attack the attention span of the audience now. It's just like, how can you compress it? How can you say it quicker? How can you say it better? But just like make it quick. You know what I mean? So like,
I love that. I love that.
That is my whole spiel.
That makes a lot of sense. And with that, I think that's a good spot for us to wrap on. So I want to thank you for being on this podcast, taking the time. And two, I want to invite and encourage you to tell the fine folks where to check you out, your content, and to follow you on social media. The floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. I am Travis Case on everything, on TikTok, Instagram, I believe on Facebook, and what is the other one? Twitter. Yeah, feel free. I am Travis Case. Yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
And there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Travis Case for coming over here and having a conversation with me about his work and creative interests. And I'm Rob Lee, saying that there's art, creativity, acting, and around your neck of the woods, you just got to look for it.